In this video, we'll be exploring job variables in Matillion ETL, how they work, and how to set them up in a job. A variable is an object that can hold a single data value of a specific type. Variables can be used in all sorts of parameters and expressions to allow the user to pass and centralize environment-specific configuration. Variables can be defined within the scope of a single job. These variables are called job variables. Job variables will override any environment variables of the same name within that specific job. Job variables are always included in jobs that are imported and exported and are not available for optional inclusion like environment variables are. So, for this example, say we want to load data from multiple CSV files from an S3 bucket to our cloud data warehouse. We can use job variables to hold file locations and names so that we can load the data more easily. First, we'll load a single file defined using a job variable. Then, we'll use a Python script component and a fixed iterator component to load multiple files. To create job-scoped variables, right-click on an orchestration or transformation job within the Explorer panel, and select Variables, Manage Job Variables. This will bring up the Manage Job Variables dialog. You can also reach this dialog by right-clicking on the canvas and selecting Manage Job Variables. This dialog gives a complete list of all the job variables with their properties. And the properties for each job variable are name, where you specify the name of the variable, type, specify the Matillion ETL data type of the variable, behavior, set the branch behavior inside a job. This determines how the variable is updated when more than a single branch is making use of it. The options within behavior are copied and shared. Copied variables can be updated within one branch of a job without updating variables of the same name in other branches. A branch using a copied variable will begin by taking its default value, even if this variable has been updated in another parallel branch. Shared variables are updated in a job-wide fashion. So, regardless of branches, if a shared variable is updated in one branch, all other branches will use that updated value. And the other properties to set for job variables are visibility, where you can select either public or private. When a variable is private, it cannot be discovered or overwritten when this job is called from a run orchestration or run transformation component. And value, set the default value for this variable in this job. In this example, we're creating two job variables in an orchestration job. Click the plus button to add a new variable. The first we will call directory name, with the behavior of shared, and the visibility of public. Its value, for this example, will be test, the folder name that corresponds to an S3 bucket that contains the CSV files we are loading. The second variable we will call file name, with the behavior of copied and the visibility of private. For now, we'll enter the value file1, the name of our first file. Now we'll build an orchestration job to load files from an S3 bucket to our cloud data warehouse. I've created a table in advance which is currently empty for the data to be loaded into. The data will be loaded using an S3 load component. After entering the S3 bucket information, then when defining the file to be loaded, instead of entering the file name, file1, we can use our file name variable. The variable syntax is the dollar symbol with the variable name enclosed in curly brackets. Now, any value defined for our variable will be used. For a quick example, we can run this job and we can see the variable has used the value we defined, file1, and loaded our file of 10 rows. The real power of a variable is that the value can be updated. Now we'll use a Python script to change the value of one of our variables. Then we'll use an iterator component so that we can load multiple files. Python scripts can push new values into variables using the built-in context object. Drag a Python script component onto the canvas of the orchestration job. Then double-click to edit the script. We can set the value of the variable using the context update variable object. First, we'll input the variable of directory name, then its new value, which will be variables. For this example, variables is a different directory name in the S3 bucket in which some files are stored. Then we can check here the variable has been updated successfully by printing the variable, so that when we click Run, we will update the variable and we'll be able to see the new variable value. Now we'll add an iterator component. Iteration components work by setting variables to a new value for each iteration. Here we'll use a fixed iterator component connected to the S3 load component. Then, in the properties, we must first select the variable to iterate, then enter the values to iterate through. For this example, file 1 and file 2. These are the names of the CSV files in the variables folder of our S3 bucket. Now we'll go back to the S3 load component and update the component properties to use both of our job variables. By entering the variable directory name, the job will use the new value of variables defined in the Python script component. We'll add a / and then the file name variable, which will use the values defined in the iterator component. I've deleted the rows from the table on our Cloud Data Warehouse so that when we run the job again, we can see the two files, file 1 and file 2, have been loaded successfully with 10 rows from each file. For full documentation on job variables, please visit the Matillion documentation site. For more videos, please subscribe to the channel. And to get started with Matillion, visit matillion.com.